guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go a really good email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is 30 years old. He is a bachelor, doing very well for himself. And he shares his story from like 9 years ago when he was a senior in college, and how his girlfriend, who he'd been with for 3 years since their freshman year, had a really good relationship, all that, how practically overnight she turned into a giant a-hole feminist. Circumstances that were going on in the world, particularly this country, I'm sure you can connect the dots, were happening, and she fell in with the wrong crowd and just really overnight began to lose it. And eventually, rightfully so, whoosh, he's done with her. And fast forward 9 years, our guy's kicking butt in life on multiple fronts, good job, good income and all that. And upon writing this story and doing a little Facebook stalking, he saw her, and let's just say, well, not so much for her. And I'd be going to go over here, guys, on multiple fronts here. One, to show you just how venomous and poisonous the movement can be, and how it can wrap up some young women who, prior to that, weren't into that crap and everything, manipulate them, and look what happens. And it's a perfect example here. And as guys, you do not have to tolerate this crap. Your girlfriend goes down that path, boom, end it with her, because it's not going to go well, and you're going to see here. I kid you not. I mean, a lot of the stereotypes that happened, you're going to see in this story here. And he was just so bewildered. Couldn't believe how she changed. But that was the influence of the crowd, particularly around that time period. It says, "Hi, SSM. My name is Mark, and I've been following your channel since 2021, when you were first starting out. After years of listening, I figured it was time to send you in my story. You will see as I get into this what led me to your channel. I'm 30 years old, and this all happened when I was 21 in the fall of 2016. This is how the story of my seemingly cool girlfriend from college mutated into an obnoxious feminist during our senior year of college. While I don't take great pleasure in seeing how she turned out all these years later, it is somewhat satisfying given how she ruined what I thought was a solid 3-year relationship, and how she treated me like I was the enemy before I finally ended things with her. This story is about the damage that the extreme nutjob feminist can cause." Okay. Well, I can take pleasure in where she is today compared to what she was and how she treated you. And all the guys in the comment section will take pleasure in where she ended up. Things dramatically changed with Steph after the election of 2016. Ding, ding, ding. A lot of women, young and old, lost their freaking minds. For the 3 years that we had been dating, she really never had much of an interest in politics. We were both business majors, me accounting/finance, and her marketing. She was a good-looking girl, fun to be around, good personality, smart, etc., all things that I wanted. Well, after the election, her personality started to change. I remember this like it was yesterday. She suddenly was listening to political podcasts, in particular, women's podcasts. When I would go to her apartment, she would have CNN on pretty often. And on top of all that, she was suddenly asking my opinion on things about politics and my views of Trump. I'm sure a lot of guys watching this went through this with wives and girlfriends and all that, or girls they knew. Lost their freaking minds. And then they lost their minds last year again. It wasn't long before she stopped being as available to get together and hang out. She started going to meetings around the campus and even a women's march. Oh, for goodness sake. At the time, I figured this was a phase that would end in a few weeks. Hey, we were college kids. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Nope. If you guys ever saw the movie PCU, it came out like 30 years ago, really funny about colleges. And at one part at the beginning of the movie, they're making fun of like all these different groups protesting this and that. And there's one group they call the cause heads, because like literally every week there was a new cause to protest over, some injustice to fight. And they got bored with that cause and they were on to the next one. You probably thought this was a situation like that. Well, no. One day, I stopped by her apartment to see her. This was during the finals in December 2016. And she had some girls over her place I'd never met before. When I got there, instead of being happy to see me, she asked, "What are you doing here?" Blindsided by her attitude, I said, "Just stopping in to see you." She let me in, but I could tell that I was getting a cold reception, and when she introduced me to her 3 friends, they said hello, but that was about it. And before you ask, SSM, yes, they fit the stereotypical college feminists. They weren't fat or anything like that, but one had blue streaks in her hair, 2 of them had piercings, and 1 actually had a tattoo. After a few awkward minutes, I excused myself and went home. She barely noticed. See? So it's finals in December. So we're looking at probably about 5 or 6 weeks after the election back then, and here you go. She's not as interested in hanging out with him anymore. She's going to these meetings, listening to politics podcasts, and all. This is what happened to a lot of women there. They freaking lost their minds. And now she's hanging out with girls that she never hung out with before. I mean, obviously she has other friends, but now she's with these new girls. Gee, what do you think's going to happen? Well, fast forward to Christmas break, and I visited her family on Christmas Day. We were at a state school, and our families were about 90 minutes away from each other, so I made the drive. When I got to her house, her family was happy to see me, as they really warmed to me over the years. They probably thought we were going to get married one day. Steph was in a much better mood, but was still not the same girl that I knew. Again, I was hoping this was just a phase. So now that she got away from school and got away from her freaking harpy friends, she was starting to kind of snap out of it, but still, something's different with her. Well, later during the day, during their Christmas party, her older brother, who's older by 1 year, who I became friends with, and I'm still connected to on social media to this day, he asked if everything was all right with his sister. He said the family can tell something's off. I did say she's been distracted lately, but didn't want to say too much, trying to be loyal to her. Well, that's good of you. You could have gotten into it, but you chose not to do it at that time. Which, see, they know something's up. Obviously, she hasn't chopped her hair or got nose piercings or anything like that yet. Well, that was about it over the next couple weeks. We saw each other during the break and into New Year's. Again, during that time when we were in the car, she'd want to listen to NPR or other political stuff, and of course kept bringing up Trump and the election. I'd be like, would you cut the fucking shit? Because this is not who she was, and this clothes isn't this guy either. I then she told her that I don't want to talk about this stuff, but that went on deaf ears. When the final semester started, I already began to accept that this is probably not a phase. She was less available than ever, and when we were together, she kept bringing up politics, as well as the patriarchy and other feminist crap. I'd be done with her. That's it, we're done. But 3 years he was with her, and she wasn't like this. Well, one night when she started getting heated again, I finally told her to go home as I had enough of this crap. Oh, good for you, man. She, of course, was bitchy about it, that I dare kick her out, and that was truly the beginning of the end. Now, the beginning of the end was in November. Well, after that, she barely reached out to me and was always busy with her new friends. We were a couple, but we certainly didn't act like one. Other mutual friends of ours would often ask me what was up with Steph. She wasn't the only girl who behaved like this, but this really was not her. I like to point out that during this time, when she was hanging out with her new friends and going to meetings, she started taking women's self-defense classes. While I had no problem with this, she was never really athletic. Clearly, her new friends talked her into this. Here we go. Now she's probably talking. They're probably talking to her, fighting the grape culture. That all of a sudden every guy's going to do those things to you. Now, I got no problem with a girl taking self-defense. Everybody should take self-defense. But you can see, guys, the sequence of things going on here. Well, one night, well, the final straw was when I wanted to have a serious talk about us, as this BS had been going on for 3 months. It was February 2017, and I wasn't going to waste any more my time being in a relationship with this girl if this was the new her. Good for you, bro. I just wish you didn't waste all those months with her. But you did give her a chance. It shows that you're a good guy. It didn't matter to me if we had 3 good years or not. I told her I wanted to talk, and when she finally responded to my text, I got a one-word response, fine. I told her time, and we met at her place. Okay, it took her forever to respond, and her answer was fine. It's amazing she actually hasn't dumped you yet. But when I got to her place, she was clearly annoyed, so it wasn't very hard for me to say the obvious. I told her she's been completely different for the last few months. I've been patient, but I'm not doing this anymore. I laid out the ways she's been different, and it didn't take long for her to start yelling and having a tantrum at me, making me out to be the bad guy and the cause of our problems. Of course you're the bad guy. She hasn't changed. She doesn't do anything wrong. You've been unbelievably patient. And I know you were young then, 21. I guess maybe you were 22 pretty soon at that point. But still, I know that I'm sure now you would never get this far, but back then you gave her a shot. It's not your problem. It's not your fault. She would say things like that I don't support her feelings, I'm not supportive about her politics, and I don't care about women. Yeah, pretty much you're either with us or against us. If you're not going to these meetings, you're not going to marches and having shirts saying I'm with her or whatever, then you're the enemy. It's ridiculous. She's become an extremist. And no matter what, you cannot talk reason or common sense to someone like this. Well, that finally did it for me, SSM, and I just said, it's been a great 3 years, but we are done. Best of luck. I turned around and walked out the door. Good for you, bro. I'm sure that was, okay, I was going to say, I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure it was a little easier because of how she was acting, but still, 3 years you're with her. I'll admit I was both bummed and shocked at how fast she changed. I couldn't believe she allowed herself to get so worked up and manipulated by those so-called friends of hers, the media, and politicians. To this day, I will never get involved with a woman who is really into politics. Good for you, man. You don't need that shit. Well, she never reached out to me after that. No angry texts from her or her friends. No, I'm sorry. Nothing. Well, flip a coin. You could have been bombarded, or that just shows you she didn't care. You know? Who knows? Maybe she jumped the fence to the other side. I eventually did tell her brother about what happened, and he didn't blame me at all. He did say that she does get an attitude with the family when she's home. They were worried in the beginning, but now they've had enough of her. Her dad gave her a dose of reality, which went on deaf ears. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my problem anymore. Right, bro. It wasn't your problem anymore. You got your whole life ahead of you. Let her screw her life up. You're a guy who's going somewhere in life, and obviously you're doing well now. You're a catch. You don't need that shit. Well, I spent the remainder of my semester finishing up school. I was going to an MBA program the next year and wasn't going to let this get in my way. Maybe I got over this quickly because of how much she changed, and it pissed me off. I'll admit, though, that I cared about her a lot, but thankfully I now realize I never really was in love with her. If I was in love with her, I probably would have been dragged into this for far longer. Well, I'm glad. See, this is why I say, guys, you can love your girl, but don't be in love with them, because the second you're in love with them, that's what happens to so many guys, and they just waste so much time. They act like doormats and simps and all that, you know? I mean, I can't believe it lasted 3 months of that crap, but you were really trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. But I'm glad you got rid of her. It would have been some satisfaction if she threw more of a tantrum and sent you angry texts, but clearly she was that far gone, didn't care. But that's that. As graduation got closer, I obviously would see her from time to time. Of course, she ignored me like nothing happened between us. Man, she's cold-hearted. It won't surprise you, SSM, that eventually she started wearing the feminist uniform. Oh, do tell. She had eventually cut her long hair to just beyond her ears. She then had, I saw one day, purple streaks in her hair, like her friend, and was definitely dressing less feminine. See? Didn't go full purple hair. You didn't see any nose rings or tattoos. Maybe she did that later on. I don't know, but right there. Now, obviously, she's like the rest of the sheep. After graduation, I never saw or heard from her again. I went on in my MBA program, started working at a bank, and eventually, over time, a large national bank in the wealth management department. Bro, that is awesome. Good for you. I do very well. I saved money and invested it, and last year I bought a condo. No, I'm not married, and I am in no rush to. Dude, after that, I want to get married. You've been watching my channel all these years. I can see as a young guy, why the hell would you? You know, I mean, unless it's your culture, religion, all that. But you're doing great. As for Steph, okay, this is the part we're all waiting for. She never reached out to me. I guess this is a case where they don't always come back. While deciding to send my story, I did look at her brother's Facebook and see some pictures of her. Let's just say that she hasn't given up the feminist uniform, and she definitely looks like she needs some Ozempic shots. She's a fatty. There's a stereotype. I guess all that dye in her hair did something in her body and slowed down her metabolism, and whoosh. I guess we spend all the time going to those meetings, eat a lot of Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts, and, you know. Anyway, thanks again for everything you do, SSM. Happy holidays. Well, bro, that's a good story. I mean, that sucked that it happened, but then again, you know, you should have listened to all of us. The effect that the movement, the bowel movement, that's really what it is, has a lot of young women. Is it our problem? No. But it really is annoying when you had a gal that seemingly was pretty darn cool, had a lot of good traits, and how, like that, got roped into that. I knew so many gals that I was in martial arts with, and don't get me wrong, for women that are in martial arts, they are always a little more masculine, let's be honest here. As well as I knew a couple of guys' girlfriends that really got roped into that stuff, and it was in varying degrees. You know, some people were going off to marches, some people were, couples were breaking up, and others just really started becoming more into politics. But some really went off the fucking rails like her. And especially since she was in college, 21 years old. And you didn't say where you went to school. We can speculate the type of school it was, but yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm glad you got rid of her and you weren't dragged down too much and all that. And now, obviously, who knows what she's doing with her life. But if she still looks like a stereotypical feminist, and he said she's big and overweight, for all we know, she's a barista at Starbucks striking right now or something like that. But not your problem. So I'm glad you're doing well in life, multiple fronts. Keep doing that, and that's that. But good story, and yeah, not your problem. But it's been 9 years, or technically, I guess, about 9 years. You never know. You may hear from her one day. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're buddies with her brother or hang out with him, but you're connected through Facebook and everything. But you never know. A few years she could reach out to you. I mean, if you're 30, means she's 30, so who the hell knows? But anyhow, bro, good story. I'm glad you handled it right. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share, your own personal experience, a question you got to ask me, send it on over, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. Also, this goes for any good articles you see you want me to do. I like to do an article every now and again, keep things different. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.